study of Rambam. Study of Rambam daily. Daily study. Okay. So if you go to the app, everyone should have the app. Alex, you were able to download the app on your phone?
I don't think so. I'm on Rita's phone, so I'm happy to just connect.
Okay, sure. Just for besides this this class, I'm going to share the screen just so I can also share a screen, and let's share a screen. Okay. So if you go to chabad.org/daily study, you'll see the option to do which daily study. You see we have the Chumash. Every length we learn. Every day we learn Chumash. Every day we do Tanya. But the focus of this program is to learn one chapter of Rambam a day, and we are now up to part 2 of the negative commandments. We saw in the daily video today that there are 613 commandments, and the Rambam actually writes in the beginning of his book that they break down in 2 categories: positive and negative commandments. The positive commandments number 248, and it's brought in holy books that these 248 mitzvahs correspond to the 248 limbs of the human body. It's as if every single limb of ours is telling us, do a mitzvah with me. Your hand is saying, do a mitzvah with me. Your foot is saying, do a mitzvah with me. That's the lesson that we see from the fact that there's 248 positive mitzvahs, and in other places, they break down the human body into 248 limbs. There's 365 negative commandments, which correspond to the 365 days of the calendar. It's as if every single day of the year is saying, don't do a negative commandment on me. That's what the sages teach us, that every single day corresponds to a negative commandment, which is to say each one of them is each day is telling you, keep me sacred, don't do a negative commandment on me. So we are in part 2 of the negative commandments in the 1 chapter a day cycle. We go through, I think it's about 100 mitzvahs a day until we finish the 613, and we know all the mitzvahs. I think to learn Rambam, there's a tradition passed down from the holy Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov was the first Hasidic Rebbe. I wonder if I could just speak in Russian for that. That'd be helpful. Everyone here's Russian except for Rabbi. Anyway, there's a tradition from the holy Baal Shem Tov, the first ever Hasidic teacher, who said that if he heard from his teacher, who was a prophet. If anyone knows the history of Hasidism, he learned from a teacher. His name was Achi Ashaloni, who lived in the time of Moses. The idea is that he received a teaching from this prophet, who taught him this teaching of Hasidut, and this teacher told him that Rambam was a Kabbalist, it sounds like, yeah, for sure he's a Kabbalist. Kabbalah is a big study, but anyone who learns that Rambam is writing, like we're doing in this class, sees that Rambam was a rationalist, a practicalist, a rationalist, a very he doesn't give any credence or any validity to the supernatural. He says everything is rational. If you look at his book. So the Baal Shem Tov's teaching that the Rambam was, or his tradition that he received, that the Rambam was a Kabbalist, is a little bit earth-shattering to the world to hear. The future Chabad Rebbes explained how that could be, how you can have the Rambam be a Kabbalist. But the biggest proof is in the first halacha, which we're going to actually learn on Friday. I looked at the cycle. Friday, we're going to start the learning of the halachas. But you can even see it in the positive commandment number 1. So let's open up. You have your phones with you? If you open up to positive commandment number 1, you see a hint of this, which is going to be, I believe, it was Wednesday. When was the first commandment? Yep. Positive. If you go to Wednesday's day on the app, you can hit the top left. There's a button to see the menu, and then hit the calendar button until you get to Wednesday, the 26th of April, and you see just an interesting something that you may skim over, but something that shows that Rambam is here with more than just a intent to teach us the mitzvahs or to teach us the halachas of the oral Torah. He's here and he's teaching us deep mysticism, enclosed perhaps in these halachas. So he begins positive commandment number 1. Mitzvah Rishona mi mitzvahs aseh. The first mitzvah from the positive commandments, leyeda sheyesh sham Eloka, to know that there is a God. As Exodus states, I am God, your Lord. You can close it. If you close the thing, it doesn't blow. You just push the vent up so it closes. That way it won't blow so hard. I feel like everyone's squeezing. Yeah. Да, вот это, можно устать. Вот так, все, that's it. It's not going to blow anymore. That's good. Very good. Okay. So let me ask the crowd a question, and people on Zoom can pitch in as well. Is belief in God a mitzvah? Is belief in God a mitzvah?
What's the difference between to believe and to know?
Let's say to believe there is a God. Is that a mitzvah?
Yeah.
Alex says yes. Anyone say no? That to believe in God is not a mitzvah? Okay, Moshe, good. Okay, I like a little. Moshe, why no? Okay. Okay, but let's say in this case they're identical. I mean, to know that there is a God, to have in your mind set I'll put it more clearly. To have in your mind fixed the knowledge that God is real, God is true. Yeah, is that a mitzvah? To let's say to go against that commandment would be to not believe in a God, to believe that there is no God, to be an atheist. That would be the transgression of such a commandment. Is there a command to believe in God or not? I'll give you the practical difference in a second. But Moshe, you still say no, or have you switched over to Alex's camp? You switched over. Okay. So yeah, does anyone say no? I'll tell you, there's at least one person who says no. His name is Nachmanides. He says that there is no such mitzvah, and he explains very clearly, because you can't have a mitzvah to believe or to hold God to be true, because if you don't believe in a God, you can't believe in mitzvahs. It's self-contradictory. If you believe in God, you believe in mitzvahs, right? And if you don't believe in God, there's no mitzvah. So you can't say that there's a mitzvah to believe in God, because that's the foundation of all the mitzvahs. If you don't have that foundation, there are no mitzvahs. So he says you can't put that in the count of 613. Ramban says, Nachmanides says, you can't put that in the count because that's the foundation of everything, right? Right? So he says no, it's not a mitzvah. The Ramban is fourth. He says the first positive commandment is the mitzvah to know that there is a God. So you can. This is a teaching of the Rebbe, but there's a question on this. If you have the text open, it's helpful. But again, if you look in the daily app, it's on Wednesday. But the Rebbe has kind of like a klotz kasha. You know what klotz kasha is? Like a simple question that like anyone could ask, but it's interesting. The Rambam numbers each commandment. So he puts number 1, right? And he puts number 1, and he says about number 1, the first mitzvah is a positive commandment, to know that there's a God. The Rebbe asks, why does he need to tell us the first mitzvah is? Put the words in the halacha. The first mitzvah is. No. Why does he need to tell me I know he puts number 1, right? He puts that number 1 there, and it's the beginning of the book. I know by myself it's the first mitzvah. I don't need Rambam to tell me in his words, this is the first mitzvah. It's so clear. Why does he tell me this is the first mitzvah? He's like emphasizing it. This is the first mitzvah.
You can't do any other mitzvah.
But if you say that, then you're back to the Ramban, and the Ramban says then it's not a mitzvah. If it's just the foundation of what's to come, it itself is not a mitzvah. Then it's the groundwork for the mitzvahs. But you can't put that in the count of mitzvahs.
Why not? But they're both right in a sense, because without that you can't have that. Like not one of these is right.
Right.
But also it's like you have 613 steps. You have to take the first step. You know, you can't just keep walking without the first step, you can never reach the whole thing. It's all like, you know what I mean? You can't climb this.
So you think it's both. You're saying you're trying to blend the worlds. You're saying that it's the first, it's a mitzvah in and of its own right, and it's also the foundation.
Yeah, it's foundation as well. It's still the first block, you know what I mean? It's still a block.
Okay.
But without that foundation, the whole thing crumbles.
Right.
So they're both right.
I'm gonna put one more rock at this building here. Put one more rock into it. Every commandment has to be an action or a lack of action. You cannot be commanded to do something spiritually. There's no such things. If it's there's Torah is spiritual. Torah is inherently spiritual. It's in the heaven. Torah speaks about lofty things, but ultimately the commandments are. What does a commandment mean? What does a commandment mean? A commandment means I'm commanding you something, right? It means it has to be. It's an order. So every commandment is one of two things. Either it's an action, it's doable, or it's the commandment not to do something, right? Right? To pray, to swear in Hashem's name if it's appropriate, like Liba asked, to emulate his ways, to sanctify his name. These are all different commandments to do. How do you know that God is your God? How do you do that? How do you do know God, believe in God? Where's the do? You what? You're scared, or you're more like trepidation. So there's a 4. The number 4 is liyirah, to fear him. Mitzvah number 4 is to fear him. Number 3 is to love him. Number 2 is to unify him. Number 1 is to know him, to believe in God in rough terms, to believe that there is a God. How do you do that? Don't question. So that's okay. That's a positive commandment. It's a positive commandment. You have to do something. That's
maybe a little bit of all the next ones that go on.
What do you mean?
Kind of
Explain.
like to unify him, to love him, to fear him, to pray. It's all that's in essence kind of it's all believing. How do you really believe in God? It's like if you actionize, like I'm thinking about it now, and like the action is all these actions, and then it's.
You're saying the question. You're saying how do I do it, right? You're saying is it just the so that's another reason why the Nachmanides says it's not a mitzvah because you can't do it. Believing in God is your outlook, is your approach to Judaism. It's the basis of your Judaism, but it itself is not a mitzvah. Don't put it in the count of 613. But in case it's not clear, there's different rabbis have had different counts of mitzvahs. So Rambam's count and Rambam's count do not agree. They agree with 600 perhaps, but there's a number. It's about 10 or 12. I'm not sure the exact number. They have different mitzvahs that are counted as which are the mitzvahs of the Torah.
We're looking at it as that we personally right now. I'm thinking, how do I believe in God? How do I make that action? But if I tell you, do you believe in God? Or if someone else then you can there is an action. It's
to answer the question,
more like a reaction. You can kind of do the action of believing in God, saying you believe in God. It's kind of like it has to get tested, kind of.
So it comes out when it needs to, and therefore that's the deed.
It has to be like a reaction of someone else's action. Someone can basically test something can test your belief in God, and then you can act that you believe in God, say that you believe in God. But by itself, like you're by yourself in this world, like Adam, it's kind of hard.
So you can't. So you're saying again both sides.
Person kind of to do that.
You make it's okay. Interesting idea. So it comes out when needed. When you're challenged, when you're questioned about it, it comes out.
Then there can be an action, or it's more like a reaction.
Okay. Any other thoughts? I accept Zoom answers as well. I accept virtual answers. Any other? What could Rambam, Maimonides, be thinking by putting this in the tally of mitzvahs? What was his goal here? How do you say intention in Russian? Something like намерение. What was his intention? Намерение? Какое намерение было у него? What was he thinking? He had an intention. He was every word of Rambam, and this is why one reason why it's so fun to learn it. He's exact. He doesn't waste a word. He doesn't add a word. It's everything exact. So what was he thinking? Anyone? Is it interesting? It's an interesting question. How could this be a mitzvah? Anyone? You say, so you're like the Rambam. Oh, okay. Mita took a stance. She doesn't agree with the Rambam. I like that. She disagrees. Anyway, you can disagree. Anyway, what are you guys thinking? Which way are you leaning?
I think it's like the foundation.
Foundation. Say, okay, Nachman, another Nachman.
The first block, you can't have the house.
Okay, you're Nachmanides. You're also with Nachmanides. Are you a Nachmanides or a Maimonides?
But it's still a block.
You're a Maimonides? Oh, okay. Why? To be a Maimonides, you need a reason why. Nachmanides, we just gave him all the reasons to be a Nachmanides. Why are you a Maimonides? Logical. Oh, you're saying which one of them in general you like? Okay, but in this case, do you side with Nachmanides or Maimonides? In this case, Nachmanides says it's not a mitzvah to know God. It's not a mitzvah to believe in God. It's the foundation of all the mitzvahs. There's no action to go along with it. Maimonides, for some reason, is saying no. It's a positive mitzvah to believe in God. It's a mitzvah's aseh from the Torah. It's one of the 248 positive commands that God gave us to believe in Him. You like Rambam better? Maimonides, I also like it. Okay, but why? Can you explain why?
It's our effort every day
Oh, you want to say more? You're saying good. Yeah, that's very good. That's very good. But what are you saying? Inside. But then you're Nachmanides. The Nachmanides gewirish. So you're saying it's not a mitzvah. You're saying it's internal. It's in my heart. And if it's in your heart, it's not a mitzvah. If it's only in your heart, it's not a mitzvah. then it's an approach. It's your feeling about Hashem. It's true, that's okay. Nachmanides.
And I can share with anybody.
Yes, you share with anybody, right? But then it's not then I can't command you to do it. If it's in your heart, I can't command you. I command you to feel something. Good luck.
If I know this command, I'll do.
If you know the command.
Yes.
So it's the foundation. If you know that God is God, you'll do. Nachmanides. Can I put you there? Do you agree? You're a Nachmanides. Tikak Nachmanides, Gavarir. Gavarir Tikak Nachmanides. Roman, where are you? Bella, Zoom, you're next. Bella and Alex, you're next. Where do you hold? Nachmanides is Maimonides. Tikak Nachmanides. You think it's the foundation, but it's not a positive commandment.
I think it's not, yes, it's for already released people, I think.
People that believe,
it's not a mitzvah.
If you believe, you'll do, and if you don't believe, you won't do. So it's not a mitzvah. So it's not a mitzvah. Okay, it's the foundation. Bella, Alex, any thoughts? Rita, it's Alex and Rita. It says on Zoom. So if you're here, we'll accept your opinion as well. Any thoughts? Oh man, are you guys there?
Maybe you muted them.
Yes, like sometimes the kids are in online school. They can go on Zoom and they just walk away from the computer, and the teacher says they're there. Okay, anyway. So my money says like this. My money says like this. That it is a positive commandment, and he's being clear about it with the words he adds in this halacha. He doesn't need to say the words. The first mitzvah is a positive commandment. He doesn't need to say those words. Right in the second one, he doesn't say the second mitzvah, the positive commandment to love, to unify God. The fifth mitzvah, he doesn't say that. He only puts to the first mitzvah. The first mitzvah is the mitzvah rishona, and it's a mitzvah's asi. It's clear. It's a positive commandment. So he's telling you, the Rambam is telling you, this is a positive commandment, and how do you fulfill it? Right? How do you fulfill it? It's the foundation of mitzvahs. However, every mitzvah that you do, you must do with the awareness of God. This is the Rambam's take on it. And there's other places you see this, but this is how he makes it practical. When you put on tefillin, which the mitzvah is 112, you should do that mitzvah with this. Practically, you should be doing it because God is God. It's a first mitzvah, and it's a positive mitzvah. Every mitzvah you do, right? It's not just foundation that, okay, I believe, and now I'll do other things. In every mitzvah is this mitzvah, and you must do it every time. So when you're doing mitzvahs Shabbos, you're going to light Shabbos candles. Do that mitzvah Shabbos candles because God is God. Because God is the king of the world, because you believe in God. That has to be, in other words, don't let your Judaism become, just robotic. Just I do it because I do it. This is the mitzvah, the first mitzvah, and a positive mitzvah. So he's telling you it like Alex said, the first step and the foundation, but it is practical because in every mitzvah you should do this. So that was a long introduction to today's portion, and I'm not sure we have really time. I just wanted to keep it 20 minutes because I think an hour class may be too much. But did anyone look? Did anyone have any questions? Like Liba posted a question of that she had during the negative commandments or positive commandments to swear in Hashem's name. My wife later told me that my answer did not make sense. She didn't get my answer. Did anyone else look at that answer and not understand what I said? Anyone? Or everyone understood? Yeah, on the WhatsApp, Liba asked a question about is it a mitzvah to swear in God's name? I thought we're not supposed to swear in God's name. And I gave her my wife said, a very academic answer that would use just words that people don't understand. Anyway, did people get it or no?
You do it automatically and not thinking about the mitzvah.
Oh, you're saying about what we said about Rambam. Yeah, you do it right. And the Rambam says, then you're not fulfilling this commandment. If you ever put on tefillin and you do it half asleep, right? You didn't have your coffee yet, and you just do the mitzvah because that's what you're a Jew and you do the mitzvah. He would say you didn't fulfill in that moment this commandment. He'd be very clear about it. You at that moment you did the mitzvah to fill in, no question, but you didn't do the mitzvah to believe in God in that minute because you were just doing something because that's what you do. And what? No. And therefore you didn't in that moment you did not fulfill the first mitzvah of the Torah, right? If you want to fulfill that mitzvah, have in mind that I'm doing this mitzvah because God is God, because I believe in God, because God is the creator of the world. I'm going to do this mitzvah. If you do that with that intention, when you're putting tefillin, you're doing two mitzvahs. Mitzvah 210 and mitzvah number 1.
You have to feel the connection.
Who's saying that? Oh, Rita, finally, the Zoom is alive. Rita, say it again.
I'm sorry, I'm just learning how to use the phone.
Okay, go on. Okay, say it again. Say it
I
again.
said the connection, when you feel the connection, not like a robot. So you know in your heart that you connect this minute to the God to do the mitzvah. Then I think that's how I feel.
Yes, that's 100% true. And you know why I love what you said, and I love the context we're saying this in, because this is not a saying by a Hasidic Rebbe. This is in the book of mitzvahs. This is for me why it's very powerful. Because what we just said is a great idea, right? Don't do mitzvahs robotically. Do mitzvahs with feeling, right? Anyone could say that. But Rambam is saying, he's not just saying it. He's saying this is a mitzvah in the Torah, right? It has so much more weight. It's so much more powerful. This is a mitzvah, and it's the first mitzvah, right? This is why people, I think this is why the Rebbe made such an emphasis on Rambam, because it's concrete. It's not like a feeling, a nice Facebook post. No, the first mitzvah of the Torah is to believe in God and do it. So when you're doing this, what Rita said, making your mitzvahs alive, you're actually fulfilling a mitzvah in the Torah, and you know it from learning Rambam. So yeah, thank you, Rita, 100% true. Now where were we? The Liba's question. I think it's a good question, but I want to make sure that I answered it. If anyone else had that question Liba had, and I did not answer you.
Time and place for it. So
You read my answer. You
Yeah,
just
right.
okay. And
there's a time and a place. So like when you go to court and you have to be a witness, you have to swear to what you're saying is the truth, you know?
Yeah.
So if you're doing it the right, you're going and saying the truth, you're not lying to the court,
right.
you fulfill the mitzvah because you swore, you know, that what you said is true. So
Right.
in a sense, that's an action, like swearing to God.
Right.
When you're gonna swear to God in a wrong way, in a bad way, or in a what is it, like in
vain,
it
yeah.
would be like
Fancy word.
just like for no reason,
Right.
basically, like
Right.
no intentional reason,
Right.
then it's bad. But if there's a reason for it, and if you're even obligated to, like you're
Right.
called by the court to,
Right.
you have to. So,
Right. I'll give context just to fill everyone in case they didn't see it. Leave out a question. How can you swear in God's name? We don't swear. My mother always told me, don't swear in God's name in vain. Don't use God's name in vain, right? Every Jewish mother tells them when you say, oh my God. Mother says, don't use God's name in vain. Don't just say God's name, right? So therefore, you probably shouldn't swear in his name in that case, right? Because why would you swear in God's name? It's just a serious thing, right? You say this, if you say, I swear, and you use one of Hashem's name, that this is a phone, right? Let's say you're arguing with someone. Someone says it's not a phone. This is not a phone, the person tells you. And you say, no, I swear in Hashem's name, this is a phone. That's called swearing in vain. Because why'd you do that? Everyone knows it's a phone, meaning even the guy who's arguing with you, he knows it's a phone. And you just took God's name and you applied the holiness of God's name to such a like frivolous, not important thing. Why did you do that? So that's a negative commandment. So Liba is saying, then why is it, if you look in the count of negative of positive commandments, number 7 is you have a mitzvah, you have a commandment to swear in his name. And if you look here I don't know if you have it online in the app, but they put a little A and a B next to it, which tells you that 2 people disagree with the Rambam. Nachmanides again disagrees with him, and someone called the Ravid also disagrees with him. They don't agree this is a positive commandment. They don't agree in such a thing. They say that you shouldn't swear in God's name. The Rambam says, and this is what I tried to quote. At first, it comes from the Torah. Rambam brings a quote about it that says that you should swear in his name. Rashi says, if you're the type of person that's the high caliber and you're honest and you're following the mitzvahs, you fit the bill of someone who could. You're able to swear in Hashem's name. And the Rambam says the context where you would do it, like Alex said. If sometimes you'll have a court case, where one person says, I say to Alex, or Roman says that, you're both father and son. Roman says to Yuri. Okay, Roman says to Yuri. Yuri, you took my lawnmower from my house and you didn't give it back, right? Okay. Yeah, you took my house, you didn't give it back. Yuri, what do you say?
Well, no mention of that.
No mention of it. Yuri says to Roman, actually, Roman, a band of thieves came and they took your lawnmower. They stole it. Right? What happens then? Prove it. Roman says, prove it, Yuri, prove it. And Yuri says, what do you want to prove it? You want witnesses? They came in the middle of the night. No one saw them. They took your lawnmower and left. Right? I literally can't prove it. It's not possible to prove it. My camera system was jammed and they took it and ran away. Right? What happens then? What happens? Do we make Yuri pay for Roman's lawnmower? Automatically, Yuri pay him. Right? Or do we say, Roman, you're out of luck. Sorry. He can't, there's no proof available. Sorry. What do we say? What does the Torah say? So the Torah says Yuri takes an oath. That's the law of the Torah. In this case, Yuri has to take an oath. Yuri holding, if he's a Talmid Chacham, he can use a pair of tefillin, and while holding a pair of tefillin, he swears in Hashem's name. Or if he's a regular person, he holding a Torah, you take a Torah in your hand and you swear in Hashem's name that this and this happened, that I was innocent, I was sleeping, a band of thieves came and they took your lawnmower, and you swear. Yeah, you take an oath.
When we have today's court, we live in America, and you're called as a witness in court, you also have to take an oath. Do you still, even though it's not a Jewish court, it's a secular court, but we live in this country,
Right.
do we still get the mitzvah for doing that, or?
Good question. I don't know.
No?
I really don't know. It's a good question. No, you say no? I affirm? Oh, okay. Sounds good. Yuri says you don't say I swear in God's name. You say I affirm. Sounds pretty good. Yeah. But so again, so in this case, this is the Torah's decision that the idea is most people are God-fearing. Most people understand the severity. It says that there's very few mitzvahs as severe as swearing falsely in God's name. There's very few mitzvahs that are so severe. So the average person, the upright person, is very fearful to do such a thing. So the Torah is thinking, if we can't prove it, what's the next best thing? Have the person do something that otherwise would be incredibly dangerous for them or incredibly uncomfortable for them. In other words, Yuri, an upright person, would never use God's name in vain. So therefore, his oath is as if a testimony. It's as if proof for us, because otherwise he wouldn't say God's name and swear by the fact that his lawnmower was stolen. He would just return the lawnmower if it was hiding it. Right? That's the idea. If, let's say, God forbid, the other way, it wasn't stolen from Yuri. In fact, Yuri was just keeping it in his garage, and he wanted a few months to pass by, and he would get a free lawnmower. Right? He would just wait it out, and then in a few months he'd have a free lawnmower. Right? The idea is the oath would scare him, or it would scare him and say, you know what, it's not worth it. I'm not going to swear in God's name falsely. Here, Roman, here's your lawnmower back.
Should I forgive him?
That's a different mitzvah. You have a mitzvah to forgive him. It's a different mitzvah. That's a different mitzvah. You have a different mitzvah. Forgive. Keep the lawnmower. It's a gift. It's a gift.
His possession isn't like you stole it from him, not from him.
Isn't
there something like that where it's even though someone gave you something to borrow,
yeah.
In that moment, it's your property.
Yeah, that's why he'd be obligated. If in fact it wasn't true, right? He'd be obligated to pay him. If, let's say, I don't know, he was taking it for a joyride and it broke. We were borrowing it, and you were just taking it around for, I don't know, to show it around town, and it broke, you'd be obligated to pay him, right? Because in that moment it's in your possession. You're obligated to take normal care of it, to not just, I don't know, to go do jumping jacks with it. You're obligated. It's as if it's yours for that moment. So when it's stolen, right? If being stolen, it's your way out. I did everything I could. I kept it in my house, and someone stole it from me. So what do you want?
You left the door open.
So these are by the way, there's a section of oaths, and there's a section of something called guardianship. There's laws about this. What is my obligation? For example, if it wasn't a lawnmower, let's say it was diamonds. Let's say Roman's a diamond dealer, and he says, I'm going out of town. Yuri, can you keep my diamond safe for me while I'm away? And he goes, yeah, sure. And what does he do with him? He puts it in his garage, on a table in his garage, but leaves the garage door open. There's a bunch of diamonds out there. And then someone comes and takes it from him. Can he say the same thing? Sorry, it was stolen. I don't. Is he allowed to get off with that it was stolen? Or does Roman say? Roman could say to him, perhaps, you should have taken better care of it. Why'd you leave it in your garage? Who wins? Who wins the court case? There's laws about this. There's sections that deal with this. What is my obligation when I'm borrowing something? What does Hashem want me to do with it? In other words, what does Hashem expect from me when I'm borrowing something, or when I'm taking care of, when I'm entrusted with something? What is my obligation? Liba joined. Liba, we're talking about your case about swearing. You have a question? Yeah, go ahead.
It just happened last Friday.
Yeah.
Somebody asked you about Shabbat.
Yeah.
Kind of
Okay, very good. Yeah.
And I was in the middle of discussion.
Yeah.
Was I was one of the women who said that 18 minutes before the Shabbat starts, we can light the candle. But they argued with me and they said it could be an hour before. And then you called.
He called. I didn't.
And you clarified. They said
we're good.
Said that hour before it's fine.
Yes.
And you mirror it's wrong.
I didn't. They didn't tell me there was an argument. That would have been more judicial.
Okay.
They didn't tell me it was an argument.
Okay. It was not. I did not make it as an argument.
Okay, good.
I said, do what Rabbi say, and I'm sorry that I said that. This was the end.
Right.
So what's the story?
I'll tell you the story. So you have, first off, we're learning Rambam. So you have a positive mitzvah to sanctify Shabbat. On Friday night, you're doing a biblical commandment to sanctify Shabbat. A biblical commandment. When you hold a Kiddush cup in your hand, someone posted in chat something. You have it's hard to listen to question. Oh, okay. I'll repeat the question. This is not necessarily a strictly Rambam question, but it's a practical question that comes up in many homes and many communities. This comes up, but the question is as follows: is one person allowed to, should I say like that? Is one allowed to bring in Shabbos early, right? Or am I limited to only welcoming Shabbat 18 minutes before Shabbat starts? That's the question. So I'm saying that this actually fits the Rambam, because the Rambam says mitzvahs 155 is to sanctify the Shabbat, which we do biblically when a woman lights Shabbat candles. She's fulfilling amongst the rabbinical commandment to light Shabbat candles. She's sanctifying Shabbat. That's why you make the blessing, right? The Hadlik Ner for Shabbat, right? You're welcoming Shabbat. And the husband does this when he davens usually the evening prayer, because there's a little section you say where you say a certain paragraph. And you're attesting to the fact that God created the world in 6 days and he rested on the seventh day. That's called sanctifying the Shabbat, and it's also done during Kiddush. So the question is, can I do that before 18 minutes before Shabbat? Am I allowed to do it early? So I'll tell you why it's a practical question, and then I'll answer it. In many communities, especially in, I don't know how time works on the place. I know in New York, you can have it in the summer. Shabbat can come at 8, 9 o'clock. Shabbat can start. Here also, it's even an hour more. Come 8, 9 o'clock. And if you have kids and you would love to give your kids the experience of Shabbat, right? What do? Kids go to bed 7 o'clock, 7:30. Should they skip Kiddush? Or do you want to show them the Kiddush, right? So this is a common theme. Another common theme is that you'll have, let's say, people gather in a synagogue, and they come to pray. You pray the afternoon prayer called Mincha and the evening prayer Ma'ariv. Nowadays, we're lucky. We have street lights, right? You can walk through the street at night and the street lights. In the shtetl, you didn't have street lights, right? So what if there's a walk home and it's a significant walk? And you can imagine life in Eastern Europe, and it's not so safe, right? You tell me I have to wait for it to get dark to daven together as a community, and I have to walk home in the pitch black, right? So right, it's not a new problem. And for Kabita, you just want to have dinner early. You want to have a normal dinner with your friends or family or your kids, right? But this is the scope. It's a very relevant, practical question. So the idea is as follows: that the day has different sections of the day. The day can be divided, right? It is divided. You have middle of the day, you have nightfall, right? And you have something in between called Plag HaMincha. Plag HaMincha is the latest time you could pray the afternoon prayer. It's a very specific time. It's an hour and a quarter halachically before sunset. So a halachic hour, if you want to know, is if you take a day and divide it in 12. Each one of those 12 portions is one halachic hour. So in a case where the day starts exactly at 6 a.m. and ends exactly at 6 p.m., halachic midday is 12, right? 12 o'clock, right? So then each one of those things is an hour, right? Because it's exactly 12 hours divided in 12, each hour is an hour. But if a day starts at 5 a.m. and ends at 8 p.m., a halachic hour is not 1 hour. A halachic hour is an hour and a quarter. I don't know, right? Because it's the day starts at 5 and ends at 8. So the day is each hour, each one of those 12 portions is longer. Is that clear? Am I making sense? Make sense? In other words, a halachic hour is not a regular hour. A halachic hour is the day divided by the whole day divided in 12 portions. One portion is a halachic hour. So the sages say that an hour and a quarter before the sun sets, before something called Shkia, before the sun sets, is called time of Plag HaMincha. It's the latest time you can pray the afternoon prayer. And the sages allowed us from that point on to welcome into Shabbat. A person is allowed to, right? There's some qualification, but a person is allowed to. Men, for example, can pray the evening prayer an hour and 15 before Shabbat starts. And a woman can light Shabbos candles within that hour and 15 halachic hours before Shabbat starts and take upon themselves, not upon the community. I can't make you take upon Shabbos that time because it's technically still time in the day. I can't make you just because I want to do it. I can't make you do it. But a person can take upon themselves they can sanctify Shabbat at that point. And for them, it's Shabbat, and they can no longer do work or all the different things that entails. And this leniency, if you can call it such a thing, allows for the benefits we mentioned earlier, such as the ability to have a Shabbos meal earlier, the ability to walk home while it's still light outside. The sages allowed for this to happen simply because if they did not allow such a thing, then you wouldn't have the evening prayer for thousands of years. Electricity is 100 years old, 200 years, whatever it is. Right? You would have thousands of years where Jews would not have been able to pray the evening prayer because it's just dark outside. You can't walk in the middle of the night. Or people did not walk in the middle of the night. So they allow for this leniency. And it's very useful. And Chabad, which is very strict on a lot of things, we tend to say, and during the weekday, you shouldn't utilize this leniency. You shouldn't, for example, pray the evening prayer earlier just because it's convenient. Ideally, you shouldn't pray the evening prayer earlier. But on Shabbat, you're allowed to. On Friday night, you're allowed to take on Shabbat earlier and pray the evening prayer as a man, or light the Shabbos candles earlier as a woman, and take upon the beauty of Shabbat earlier. And if you want to know, it's not just a practical halacha, it's also a spiritual idea. It says that the Messianic era is in the 7th millennium. The 7th millennium means 6001 is the 7th millennium. That's the Messianic era. So you break it down, each millennia corresponds to a day of the week. 0 to 1000 is the first day of the week. 1000 to 2000 is the second day of the week. 2000 to 3000, etc. And then when you get to the 6th hour, that's Friday night, right? Makes sense? Each 1000 years corresponds to a day of the week, right? So the question is, there's someone in the chat.
We are on Friday now.
Oh, so right now, exactly, we are in Friday. So where in Friday are we holding? Anyone know? 5001 was the beginning of Friday. We're at Blag HaMincha. We are in, if you break down the hours and the years, we are in the time of after an hour and a quarter before nightfall. In other words, 5,783 is within the last chunk. Yeah. So the Baal Shabbat said, therefore, if a person wants, he can take upon himself Shabbat. We are now in the point that if the Jewish people want, we can accept upon ourselves Shabbat, which is Mashiach. Right? So it's actually a very, not just a practical halacha, it's also a mystical idea. Because of this law that the sages passed, we can accept upon ourselves the beauty of Shabbat. And we should therefore do it, right? In this case, we shouldn't wait. We shouldn't let for Shabbat to come at the exact time.
In other words, so it was 7:43.
Yeah.
You can light it at 6:30.
That time, yeah.
Start doing wine.
Yeah.
And challah.
Yeah.
And dinner.
Yeah. Ideally, the men would pray the evening prayer.
Europe.
Yeah.
I love
Great, right? It's very useful.
it. It is breaking laws.
Yeah. Knowledge is power. The truth is,
Thank you for that.
yes, a lot of times people, and this is one more reason, if you want more reasons to love Rambam,
Yeah.
a lot of times we're in trepidation, or we don't
That's
we
very
don't know that Jewish law. I mean, obviously the Torah is the Torah law. We can't what Hashem says we fulfill. But the rabbis in their laws were understanding, and when they could find leniency to help the Jewish people, obviously not, you can't violate a Torah law. They can't pass a law that says, okay, you can just do whatever you want. But so the more you know and the more you learn, you'll find that there's halachic leniencies, and they're not like loopholes. They're not fake things. They're instituted by the rabbis to make your life and your observance better. Like the rabbi gave an example a few weeks ago in class about the Eruv. You're not allowed on Shabbos to transfer from one domain to another. I can't take a ball and throw it from my house over Fifth Avenue in New York. That's called transferring from a domain to a domain. I'm not allowed to do that. My house is a private domain, and Fifth Avenue is a public domain. It's not allowed biblically to do that. But if you can make an Eruv, you can make something called an Eruv. Literally means a mixture. But you can combine domains. Like the string that goes around the synagogue is an Eruv. It makes this big domain one single domain. It's as if you're in one big farm or one big area. And that allows you to carry. And that's why you see a rabbi carrying his talus or carrying a book. So is that a loophole? Or is that knowing the law and what constitutes a domain? Right? The person who learned Rambam would say, no, that he goes through the laws of what's an Eruv. How does it work? Yeah, so that was a long answer to a short question. But yeah. Yeah, practical, right? Yeah, we should have a practical halacha class. Rambam is known for going over everything, not necessarily just the practical things. But at the same time, if you learn, especially with the notes, and I think on the website even they have, you click for the notes. Oftentimes you'll see what the practical laws. Okay, I think we should stop here unless there are more questions. Liba, did you hear the answer to your question? Was the question you asked in the WhatsApp group, was that answered? I can't hear you, but I see you nodding yes. I think you're on mute, Liba. Okay, I'll mute you. Ask on mute.
I unmute myself. Okay.
You're great. Okay.
Do you hear
yourself.
me?
Okay.
Do you hear
Yes,
me
I
now?
hear you. Yes.
Yeah,
Was
I
it clear?
late a little bit because it's very windy and it's quite so. But anyway, I'm glad because it's a very for example, if I have elderly people or people with certain kind of disease like diabetes, they cannot wait. They have to eat.
Right.
So, and you have to start Shabbat earlier, and I'm always say, no, I can't.
Right.
So
This
now
I'm
everything
relieved.
changed.
I'll show you who uses the Russian app that I posted. Anyone use the Russian app? Do you have the Russian app that I posted, that Chitas app? If you go to that app on the screen and you click on the top left menu and you hit Zmanim, the clock. You can't see it, but on one of them it says Plag Hamincha. Right? That is the time. So Sivonia 6:39. If you needed the leniency, 6:39. So from that time and on, you can begin Shabbat. Not Shabbat. From that today, for example, would be useful if you want to pray Ma'ariv earlier. You want to pray the evening prayer earlier because you have the trip or something. You need to go somewhere. From that time, you can pray the evening prayer, and you can, in a case of Friday, you can accept Shabbat. So you can't do it before then. Sometimes the Shabbos is so late that even this time is late. It's like in the summer, Shabbos can start 9 o'clock. So this, or 9:30, I don't know. So in this time would still be 8 o'clock.
Perfect.
But,
Yes.
good to know. Yeah. Okay. If there's no more questions, we can pause here and pick up again next week. But this week, very exciting. If you haven't started yet, because we're just enumerating the mitzvahs, it's not too late to start. But if the laws, where Rambam begins counting out the laws, begins on Thursday. Wait, where am I? Law mitzvahs. No, I would say begins on Friday. This Friday we're beginning the first.
Thank you.
Sure. This Friday we're beginning the first actual laws of the book of knowledge. Yeah, the foundation of Torah, and it's very exciting Jewish laws. It's to believe in God and love God. It's very, very just juicy mitzvahs. So if you haven't started yet, it's not too late. And if you're looking for a jump start in the learning, Friday, the 5th of May, Cinco de Mayo, is a big holiday, a big day. We're going to learn about foundation of God. Any questions? Yeah.
Did I get it right? The period from sunrise to sunset is divided into 12.
Correct.
As well as the period from sunset to sunrise.
Is also divided 12. Yeah.
Also.
Yes. Right. They used to. Yeah.
Okay, so this 1 hour let's say in the sun.
Yeah.
It's about an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah. Something.
In the winter, it's about 45 minutes.
It could be as short as 45 minutes. It could be as short as 45 minutes. Yeah. It could be that short.
Question.
Yeah.
Number 2. I'm still trying to understand what is the structure of this book. I know that this doesn't follow the structure of mission.
Correct.
What is the actual structure? Is after we got through the mitzvah, but also what is the principle of putting mitzvah in this?
Why this order?
Yes.
Right. So great question. The reason he put the mitzvahs in the order he did is a question that I think many people have. Why the order of mitzvahs? They're not in any set order. The mitzvahs are not in the order of his books even. He'll put them in order that only he knows. But the order of the books does not follow the mission, like you said. They're an invention of his own, in his own genius. You won't find a source for why he puts these orders in this way.
But still, what do you do after we get through the
Mitzvahs? We're going to start learning the laws called the laws of the foundations of the Torah, which is the idea of prophecy, the idea of belief in the Torahs from Moses, not the beliefs, the practical mitzvahs of being Torah being from Moses, and prophecy, who was a false prophet, as well as mitzvahs like not erasing God's name, mitzvahs that have to do with the holiness of God. And then we're going to go to the laws called Hilchos, the laws of idol worship is there somewhere. The exact order I don't know off the top of my head. Perhaps going in here, but they're grouped together. So they're grouped together in the general grouping called Sefer Amad, which means the book of knowledge. Also here it is. First, the foundations of Torah, which is, like I said, belief in God, loving God, fearing God, believe in prophecy, believe in the prophecy of Moses. Then you have the laws of Deus, which is the laws of this is very fun laws. Deus doesn't mean believe, but it also means the way Rambam uses it's to mean good conduct, almost ethics. Rambam's Hilchos Deus is like he goes through like how is a person supposed to eat? How is a person supposed to drink? What is a person supposed to eat? What's good medical? How is a person supposed to exercise? It's very interesting. Then he goes to the laws of Talmud Torah, Whereas how is a person supposed to learn Torah? How much of a Jew should learn this Torah, that type of Torah? What type of Torah should you, or how should a person divide up his day, and where should he put emphasis? Then the laws of teshuvah. How does a person do teshuvah? This is juicy stuff. Then the laws of idol worship and how a person should distance himself from idol worship, and what are the different types of idol worship we're forbidden to perform, etc. So this is a grouping that Rambam. There's no other source for this grouping.
This is
He saw this grouping as one thing. Yes, yeah, and he was then copied by people like Yosef Cairo, who wrote the Shulchan Aruch. His rubric became the standard, and other people followed him. But he was the first one. That's part of his brilliance, that he could not only hold all the mitzvahs and laws in his head, but compartmentalize them and group them. So if, let's say, you have a question in a law, you know which grouping it's in, you'll find it there. Yeah, he's doing it as a service to you and me, so we can find things easier. Yeah, right. Any more questions? They don't come in any. It's not like he's following. This mitzvah came first in the Torah, so I'm going to write about it first. So this mitzvah came second. That he put it in how he sees. Yeah, a person his goal is that someone can learn the Chumash and pick up his book and know everything that he needs to know. That's his goal. That the whole oral Torah should be set in his mind and clear for him. That's his goal. In what?
When you read the Chumash,
Yeah.
it says the numbers.
Yes, right. The Chumash. Right. So go from the Chumash. That's his goal. Go from the Chumash and pick up my book, and you'll know the whole Torah in entirety. So he decided there's not yet a framework that would help a person accomplish this, because the Mishnah is mishkabel, totally not clear what the order is. So I have to, on my own, come up with an order that will help a student learn this and my book and know the whole Torah clearly. So it makes sense why he begins with the foundations of Torah, believing in God, believing in Moses. That makes sense. That's his goal. Yeah. It's a lifestyle, and yeah. Any more questions?
Just lifestyle.
It's lifestyle. Lieb, any questions? No.
No,
Bella
thank
been
you.
very
Thank
quiet.
you very much.
Maybe you're like Rita, and the phone is giving you problems. Yeah.
I have just a short proposition
Sure.
because there is only a couple of us on the Zoom. It's not related to the class, but just the general rules the people in the Chabad needs to know. If you're on the Zoom, there is a certain rule and certain ethics on the rule on the Zoom meeting. There is, like in any meetings, you cannot sit and eat and show another person what you're doing. Such kind of rules. Most people had no clue that it's visible. So
Yeah.
I'm just talking,
that's
and that's
15th book of the Rambam. Zoom, Hilchos Zoom, the laws of Zoom. Yeah.
just a respect to the
Just
person
saying it.
who is teaching you. So,
Yeah.
and the respect to another people who is on the meeting. So just
Beautiful.
because I know from my experience, it's happened often, and if people we just started. It's good to let everybody know there is a certain rules on the
That's true.
meeting on the Zoom as well.
That's true. Keep it formal.
As well as, just a mute, because if there is some noise in the house, it will not interrupt. So if you want to talk, you need to unmute yourself.
Perfect. Okay, guys,
That's-
we'll stop here. We filled up the whole hour. It wasn't necessarily my goal. My goal is whatever you're interested in, whatever you're up to.
Great, thank
Then
you.
we'll go from there. Okay, let's pick up, God willing, next week. Have a great week, everybody. And
Thank you.
enjoy the Rambam.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for the
Thank
class.
you.
It was wonderful.
Sure.
Thank you, Rabbi Joseph. Thank you.
You got it. Take care.
Yeah, well,